Okay, hi folks, welcome to join our Harbor community meeting. Today we are going to have 4 topics. And first we are going to share some news about 1.9 release and also CVE issues we found. And second, Alex will have an introduction about our Harbor security process. And the third one, Stephen, Joy, and Daniel will give a demo about the Pluggable Scanner, which is our anchor feature for 1.10 release. And the last item is Jules will give us a talk about from Child Museum to Harbor. So let me introduce the first item. So Harbor 1.9 has already a G8 on September 9th. And we have multiple new features like webhook, like quotas, like tag retention. And Alex has written a very detailed blog. I linked here. And if you are interested, you can dig into this blog and find more. And also, please try the build we have delivered in our environment. And then the second item is that we have found our first CVE issues, and we have fixed this issue in Harbor 1.7.6, Harbor 1.8.3, and Harbor 1.9. And so we would suggest you to upgrade to the latest patch. And if you don't have a plan or resources to upgrade, and we also have a workaround. And the workaround is you need to disable the self-registration. And there's a workaround steps mentioned in this link. And please take a look at this adversary and make an actions on your environment. So next item is for Alex G. Before I go to next, is there any questions? Okay, sounds good. So Alex, you can share and talk about the security process a little bit.
Okay. Can you make me the host so I can share?
Okay. You should have it.
1 sec. Oh yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hey everyone. So like Stephen said, we experienced our first CVE last week. It's actually on the same day as release. So out of that experience, we formulated security release process, which we have detailed in the security.md. So if you just go on the Harbor repo, on the front page, there's a security.md. So I'm not going to go through all of it on this meeting because I want to make sure we have ample time to go through the demo and the Pluggable Scanner and the sharing on Helm chart. So please read through this, and basically it details what you're supposed to do if you discover if you suspect you've discovered a vulnerability. You're supposed to reach out to our mailing list, which is CNCF hosted, CNCF-Harbor-security. And then from there, the security team will triage the problem and disclose the fix according to this process here that we've outlined here. So we'll, someone from the team will take the proper measure to create a CVE using the CVSS calculator. We'll patch the fixes, backport the patch to older releases, and then notify people on the distributors list, and then eventually to the general public. So it's a very detailed guide on the entire process. If you have any questions or any comments, you can make a PR on this document as well. But yeah, please take a look. I'll also put the link here in chat. And yeah, that's it for me. So I think we can go on with the demo for Pluggable Scanner.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I think to add for Alex that, so please, to register these things, have Harbor distributor email list, so that so once we have any security resolve solution and issues, and we will advertise to this email list. Also, please encourage your customer. If you have a customer with also use your product, can include Harbor, please also include them for this list so they can know whether there will be a security issue impact them. And Alex, maybe you can give the presenter to Stephen Zhou and he can share for the next part.
Okay.
Okay. Let me sharing. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah,
yes, I can see.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad to represent the scanning work group to do updates about the pluggable scanner, which is anchor feature in 1.10. Before I do the demo, I'd like to quickly give you some introduction about the pluggable scanner framework. Yeah, the motivation is we heard some voice from the community. Yeah, some end user want to use their own or their some other scanner they bought from other security providers to do the image scanning instead of using Clear. And I think a couple years ago, some security provider like Anchor team raised a proposal to raise the proposal to Harbor community to they want Harbor to provide a flexible framework to enable other scanners in Harbor to do the artifact scanning. So so we did the communication with security provider like Anchor, like Equal Security, and we set up a working group to continue this work. So far we have drafted a design proposal, and if you want to check the details, you can go to the community repository under Go Harbor namespace. I think the PR number is 92. Here I will not go through every detail, just quickly update the high level architecture. So compared to the previous Harbor, we'll provide a framework to introduce other scanners into Harbor. I think the primary change is there will be a REST API spec to define what capability or what behaviors the scanner should be provided. And with this open REST API spec, Harbor will easily to talk to those different scanners. And in Harbor side, we will support different scanner management. That means the admin can add different endpoints of the scanner into Harbor, then and maybe they can choose one of them set as default when the user starts the one-based scanning or some other types of scanning. Will use the administrator configured scanner to complete the work. And I think another big change is we will cache the latest copy of report into Harbor side, then we can quickly, render the report for user with a high performance. I think that's the core idea of the Pluggable Scanner framework. So for this part, do you guys have any questions? Okay, no. So yeah. Okay. If you guys have no question, I'll move to next is a quick demo. So before starting the demo, I needed to clarify the work is still ongoing, not fully ready to not fully ready. So today's demo will not a full demo. We will only demonstrate the scanner management, and we will not demo the trigger the scanning flow. I think that part will be demoed in our next community meeting. Okay, so after you log in Harbor, you can navigate to the configuration part. Here, we will add a scanner section. With this section, you can now add different scanners here. If you want to add a new scanner, click the new button and give the scanner a name. For example, it's a simple 100, just a demo. Maybe you can give some description to clarify what this scanner can be do. And you need to provide the endpoint of the scanner here. Yeah, I have already set up one. This one is a micro scanner provided by Equal Security company. It's also an open source scanner to do vulnerability scanning, targeting the image. You can check here. I have sent the micro scanner. You have a micro scanner and a micro scanner adapter here. So this is the endpoint of this scanner. And also you can figure out which authentication will be provided. So far, this micro scanner adapter does not enable authentication, so we just keep none here. And before ending it, you need to do the connection testing. Oh, okay, give me a minute. Give me a system 0. Sorry, I forgot the port. Okay, try again. Okay, the testing is passed, so now I can add it to my list. Okay, and I only add one scanner here, so it will be automatically marked as a default scanner. And here is a narrow echo. If you click this narrow echo, there will be more metadata of this scanner be retrieved and rendered here. You can see what's the name of this scanner adapter and what's the vendor of this scanner adapter and what's the version. And also there is some like capability. That means what artifact memory types this scanner will support and what types of report it will provide. Also, there are some other, different properties. For example, what's the vulnerability database updated, the timestamp of the vulnerability database updated. You can also check some property here. Those sections are based on the scanner provider. Okay, so far we have a micro scanner and the health status is health. That means we can retrieve. We can this scanner is connect. Okay, so of course you can do some management work. Okay, for example, I think this is not the major thing. You can change some other information here. So that's the scanner management part. Okay, and before the administrator, manages the different scanner at the system level, in the project level, the project admin can also can also configure different scanner to their project. But all the candidate scanner are from the system level. That means the user can choose some other scanners. Maybe it's not the system default, okay? But all the candidates should be configured or added by the administrator. So here, because we only have one, and the user did not set its own scanner as for their project, so so the default will be inherited to this project. Okay, because I only have one scanner. I only set up one scanner, so I cannot and another one to demo the different things. Okay. So after you configure the different scanner, then you can go to the repository and select the tag you want to scan. Okay. Although not all of the work are done, but we can show some things. For example, if we watch the logs on micro scanner, and when I scan, you can see the scan request is passed to micro scanner. Micro scanner will do their work to complete finish the scan work. Here, the job is done. But so far we have some bugs to retrieve the report back to Harbor. So that's the current status of this this feature. I think that's all the thing I can demo today. Do you guys have any questions?
Thank you, Stephen.
No?
Yeah, would you mind to give the host to Jules, so he can share?
Okay, hold on. Jules, let me.
Able to see all right?
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Cool. So this is a presentation that I gave 2 weeks ago. It's a longer presentation, but I'll jump through. And it's all about how the Helm project is starting to use registries as a new way of storing Helm charts. And it's really something else that's going on in the community that's outside of Helm. So you may know me from the Chart Museum project. I created Chart Museum, and from there got involved with the Helm project as a maintainer. And so what I think is going to happen is by the end of next year, that things in the cloud native world are going to be starting to be shipped over OCI distribution. And OCI distribution I'll go into in a second. So the name of the presentation is From Chart Museum to Harbor, but really it's about going from a custom way of distributing artifacts to using OCI, which is an open standard. So the Chart Museum project, I released it in 2017 and then was donated to Helm. And it's a very basic way to run a chart repository, and it allows you to plug in different storage such as Amazon and different other clouds. And it powers a lot of internal chart services. So including the Harbor project actually uses Chart Museum as a backend service for pushing and retrieving Helm charts. So the reason why all of this started has actually a long history. Back before I was even involved with Helm, people from Quay, such as Antoine and Jimmy, came out with or released the app registry, which was a way to store Helm charts on Quay, which never really reached a lot of usage where it changed the way Helm was doing things, but that was over 2 years ago. Then we had a summit, a Helm summit, where somebody from JFrog Ankush gave a presentation about how the entire system of Helm was subject to memory concerns. If you put a ton of charts in a index.yaml file, your laptop started to get very hot from all the memory consumption. And then, so finally, after all of these different problems came up over time, and since I was involved in the Chart Museum project, we started to have meetings about how we can make improvements for Helm 3 that would tackle the problems that were trying to be solved. For example, how do we log into a repository? If you're familiar with the Helm CLI, you'll know that you're basically passing basic auth username password on the command line. And if you have access to the repo, you have access to every chart in that repo and not just the ones that is scoped to your user. And then also, how do we upload charts to a repository? There is a plugin that works with Chart Museum, but how do we, in a more generalized way, upload charts to a repository? And then out of nowhere, somebody comes in, Steve Lasker from Microsoft, and makes this large proposal against Helm that Helm should work exactly or in very similar way as Docker registries. And this concept sort of started to take off. So it turned into a conversation though about, and not just about Helm or Docker, but about OCI as the standard for doing these things. And so if you're not familiar with OCI, it's the Open Container Initiative. And here's sort of a timeline of what happened is Docker came out in 2013, and then Rocket came out with an alternative spec in 2014. And then finally, the year after, they kind of agreed on this is an open way to do these things with containers. And then in 2018, it added another spec called the distribution spec. The distribution spec is basically a copy of the Docker registry API. So they took what the Docker distribution project did and turned it into a spec. So this red line is kind of representing exactly what the distribution spec is, right? Every time you do a Docker push or a Docker pull, it's making HTTP requests to one of these different registries, Harbor being over here. And this API is now a spec that's under the OCI organization. So through those conversations, a project came out called ORAS, which stands for OCI Registry as Storage. And what ORAS is, and it was originally created by Shiwei from Microsoft container registry team. And ORAS lets you push anything up to a registry over the OCI spec. So Helm now has imported, Helm 3 has now imported the ORAS library. So you can start to do things like you would with Docker against registries. So imagine if you've deployed a harbor to mysite.io, you can start doing downloading and uploading charts just like you could a Docker image. So now we're able to do this with Helm, but now the question becomes, where do we actually push these to? And it's a little bit of a tricky question because the cloud registries have sort of whitelisted, we only accept Docker images in the registry. So we really only have two open source options to do so, one being Docker distribution, also known as Docker registry. And this is the most basic way to do so. And then we're on the Harbor call. The second way is with Project Harbor. So if you want to deploy Project Harbor with Helm charts support, I have a fork here. You can look at the diff. It's a little workaround. I need to work with some of the people from this community and figure out the correct way to do this change. But you basically swap out the core. This is based on top of the 1.9. I just updated it. And it allows you to push things into the registry. And here's some other settings for allowing like 1 megabyte upload over Nginx. That's about it. I think I have 1 minute just to show how you can push a chart. So imagine if you have a Helm 2 chart. So this is just a normal WordPress chart. I can actually do a save here, and I can start to.
Yeah, Josh, sorry.
Yeah.
Your screen sharing is gone, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. All right. Well, is the call ending now? So.
Yeah, go
You
ahead
can
with the
continue.
demo.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go for just 1 more minute. I have a link to share too. You see still, or again?
No, it's not. Yeah, it's coming up. Yep.
We can see it now.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Helm now has a way to start working with things that looks more similar to Docker. So you can do Helm chart list, and you can see kind of a similar output to Docker, which shows the digest, the size, and then from here you can start to push things up to the registry, and then so there was a upload event. And hold on, I lost my browser. So now you can come into Harbor and you can see that these things are uploaded. You'll see it has like a bunch of UI things that are an issue, like it doesn't really work with the UI. That being said, somebody could, like somebody right now could probably pull this chart right now from their local using Helm 3. That's pretty much it. All of this information is available in the Helm 3 documentation. So I'll throw these into the Slack. And I've also put together this GitHub repo that has example of how to install Helm 3, deploy Harbor with this experimental support, and then commands for how you can start uploading charts to Harbor. But I'm interested to kind of work together and figure out how we can do this in a more long-term way. That's all I have. Thank you.
This is a great demo. Thank you. I think that if you can, go ahead and file a GitHub issue around the support for Helm 3 in Harbor and add a lot of these details, including the link to the repo you have. That way we can work together and maybe some of the initial issues you found, like the size issue, outline them there. And let's start having a discussion on how to do a better together support and what it will look like.
Definitely. Will do.
Thank you.
Hey, I got a
Thank you, Josh.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
So I think there's a new OCI artifacts repo that Steve Lasker just created.
Yes.
I don't know if you know anything. How does that fare against auras that you just talked about? Seems
Yeah,
like
so I should have probably slimmed down the slides even more. Yeah, so the OCI artifacts is a new project under OCI, and this is going to define how we do these things. So there's still discussion on what's the correct way to do things. Auras is an opinionated way that came out from Steve's side. So if you use Helm 3 today, it's actually marked as an experimental feature because we're waiting to have OCI sort of put a line in the sand that this is the way to do artifacts. So it's still very much an experimental way, but the Auras is a working example.
okay, great. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions or comments?
I've also just put in the CNCF Slack some links as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And if no further topics, and we will close the meeting. See you next time.
All right, thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.